process, but we reverse it. First, there is something called your biological age, and that's how when you were born. And then there's there's your chronological age, which is how old you are. Then there's your biological age, which is how old your cells actually are. And there have been people that I know that, for example, a gentleman was 38 years old. He was able to lower his biological age to 21.
There's something bigger than love. This is something bigger than love. This is something bigger than love.
All right, guys, welcome to my longest YouTube video yet. I'm here with the great Jonathan Clark. This is episode 2 of the Connecticut Chronicles, or maybe just the Chronicles. During this journey while we're all stuck in quarantine, you want to know about health and fitness. His wife reached out to me. I knew nothing about this man. The interview is so good, and he talks faster than me, that I'm just going to leave the whole thing and let it run on because I need watch time for my YouTube. So just let it go on in the background. The guy has so much knowledge. You can find him on LinkedIn, Jonathan Clark. You can find him, just DM me on Jeff the Entrepreneur if you want to find out more about him. I'll be going actually live on Thursday with my friend Angela for a live Instagram live video as well. That's going to be going on. And I know, thank you guys for everybody who subscribed, liked, and shared this. I'm just going to leave it unedited just because I don't have time for the editors. We are still going out for the Connecticut Chronicles. Those episodes will come out. They came back to me, but I'm really focusing on my coaching business. So if you guys need any help, we're going to talk a lot about coaching. He's also another coach. I learned from coaches so I can coach you and help you make more money now. Book a time below. We're actually going to be upping the tier packages going soon. Thank you to Oswaldo on my team working on funnels with me. So there's a whole new changes, and there's a new book coming out called Getting Rich in a Recession. It's going to be a book that you're going to see. There's also going to be an email link I'll put in the description below. You can click on that so you can be first up for when that book does come out. It's going to be like a 24-page action booklet of all the coaching sessions and the money tips I'm giving them to help you out and really help this economy. So that's it. Sit back, relax, and listen to the great Jonathan Clark, the Biohack, Biohealth. The guy has a crazy story. He actually worked for the White House and did security there. So you're going to hear everything about him, how his rise to fall, and why he's in Mexico right now. We're using his live video because mine wasn't too good. So check it out. You're going to like it. You're going to enjoy it. And listen to what he says about Dr. Fauci. You know, that little guy, you know? Listen to what he says about him, all right? So I'm just making this video longer. JeffJCunningham.com, inspired as always. This is the Corona Chronicles Episode 2 interview series.
Did I got it?
Yep, got it. Awesome, brother.
All right, perfect. Awesome. All right, so I don't know. So I've been very busy. My full business, just so you know, do you know anything about me or no?
I do not. I know that you, Ali sent me something about you talking with Grant Cardone, which I thought was absolutely amazing. I briefly saw your interview with his wife, which I also thought was awesome. But I didn't see the whole thing. I just was checking some things out before we got on the call today, so I don't exactly know, and I'd love to find out more.
Good. So we'll do this, and then we'll get into it. So really quick, I'll tell my story, and then I'll hear about you. You're way more polished. I'm gonna come up right here, but So basically, 3 years ago, my older brother Jay married a Playboy model in Boca Raton, Florida. Right?
Okay.
he was that type of guy. Yeah. He left him for a multimillionaire named Rick Gonzalez. You can look him up. He was kind of down there, 2 kids together. I talked to him up to Connecticut, where I am. And when we were there, we made a dream on a napkin to build a coffee shop music studio. So when we made the dream to build it up, 2 days later, because I've always been entrepreneurial, he went to wake me up, and I went to wake him up, and he died of drugs, fentanyl, laced with cocaine.
No way.
Yeah. So honestly, dude, it's been 3 years now, and even sometimes he'll choke me up. So I went to wake him up. He was stiff as a board. My younger brother there, who I'm his PR guy, promote him to get on podcast. Yeah. He was there. I said, "Hey, Jeff, I think Jay's dead." And so he called the cops. He's like, "They're coming for us." It was probably the most traumatic thing I've been through in my personal life, right?
Yeah.
Through that moment, and you know this, Jonathan, because I've looked at a little bit of your story.
Yeah.
Through pain, you can find your purpose, but it didn't happen right away. My middle school student, I taught middle school as a teacher. He committed suicide right after that, and I taught in like inner city schools. So now I'm in the funeral home for my brother and that. There was also, and we're not. Am I recording? No, you're recording.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
So anyway, my brother, so one of the head teacher girls that I was hooking up with back in the day, she reached out to me. HR said if I'd have Proctor, I'm fired. I said, fire me now. I don't care if I live. So long story short, they put me in 4 therapy lessons. I go in therapy. The lady goes, Jeff, you've been through a lot. She goes, you have ADD and OCD. I was talking as fast as I am now. Go get medicated. So it's like, all right, fine, medicate me up. I don't care. So as I went to go up there for it, I go home to my dad. My dad was good with advice. Gives me a book, Power of Subconscious Mind, and then he's in sales. He goes, Jeff, I found a funny video by this guy. Let me show it to you. It was our boy, Grant Cardone, right? So Grant's talking about customer service. So I'm watching the video, dude. Jonathan, I was the shell of the man I am today, right? I watched the video, and then all of a sudden, I go home that day. I'm a Jesus guy. I pray, God, I don't care if I wake up. As I pray that, I searched Grant Cardone depression. He did a 1-hour Young Hustlers video. Have you ever seen it?
No, I have not. It's
the best video, or at least it spoke to me. It was the video I needed.
Yes.
He talked about when he was young, they tried to medicate him. And he had potential problems. And I played football, and everybody used to call me retarded. So I was like, whatever, I'm a jock. I play football, I'm retarded, that's fine. I used to own that, right? Because that's what I was surrounded by. And then he talked about if Oprah did it, and Oprah was raped when she was young, then you can do it. I got out of bed, I read the 10X rule book, I started a photography business, which then led to a video editing business, which then led to the YouTube channel, which then led to me buying a software script. I made some money in software. I reinvested in new software, which is now not making any money. So now I pivoted, and I have a full-time coaching business that I made money online in different avenues.
Wow.
The purpose is to make people more money. So the last person I had on, that's why I was a little late, people pay me about $250 an hour to help them finally make more money now online.
Wow. That's an awesome story.
I own a 4-unit real estate. I just found a tenant today that I love. He's a good dude. He knows Grant Cardone. He qualifies. And, I'm just in the process. But my dream is still to build the biggest coffee shop music studio ever called Kokomo J's. I'm in America. You don't give up anywhere. I'm not going to give up till I do it. And just accumulate a lot of money and help a lot of people along the way, make as many connections. So when it's over, Jonathan Clark will be like, I'm going to go to Kokomo J's because I saw my boy. Yeah,
absolutely, man.
And that was his dream. See, so that's the whole purpose. So people are like, why don't you open it tomorrow? Because this with business. If I open one, then it's then I'm chained to it. So I like networking and building business. I love business. So that's my whole story. So I researched a little bit on you, but it's better to hear from you. So go ahead, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me tell you. I guess how it really depends on where we actually begin. Because it depends on whether you're talking about health, whether you're talking about coaching, whether you're talking about my transformation. Because just like you, I had an experience of transformation that I went through, and I went from a difficult. Hold on one second. So. My story. Well, the fact is that I'm a coach. I'm a biohacker. I'm a transformative speaker. I'm an author. I am really, and I'm not sure actually how we connected. But what I do is I help people biohack their biology, upgrade their physiology to become a better version and the highest performing version of themselves. But it wasn't always that way. There was a period of time where I, like yourself, had I had succumbed to essentially a ego-based, focused identity where I was sitting there trying to fill myself with all these external things from the outside, trying to fill a hole on the inside. And no matter how much more of any of those things I could, I was never actually able to fill that until I actually found that within myself. And there's a story about how I got there, because I started off, it's interesting. I started off, my first job was at the White House years ago with the Clinton administration, and I was doing good. I ended up at a hedge fund for a while. And then the credit crisis hit, and at the time, I remember I felt like I was making rich people richer, but I wasn't doing anything for anybody else. I was just really working on numbers on the screen, and I wasn't making any contribution to society. And at the same time, I was looking for purpose. I was looking for meaning, and I continued to go down a spiral of drugs and alcohol to the point where I ended up. I reached a breaking point. I reached my bottom, and I actually woke up in the hospital in handcuffs, and they told me that my kidneys had completely shut down, and I had multi organ failure. I had brain damage, liver damage, kidney damage, lung damage, heart damage, rhabdomyolysis, acidosis of the blood, and acute renal failure. And they said that they'd be surprised if I made it through the weekend. And so I remember at that point, I was like, well, if I'm able to get through this, then I'm going to devote my entire life and focus to figuring out how to reverse this damage, and at the same time share that with others and help others do the same. Well, at that point in my life, I started to say, well, where do we begin? And the only way for me to begin is by applying the principles and teachings of other people who have actually done it, who have done incredible, extraordinary feats, of the human body, of the human mind, and have actually applied those principles to my life. So I started, duplicating and imitating the science of extraordinary human performance. And that's what I have a coaching company called Inner Power Unleashed, and that is solely focused on the science of extraordinary human performance. But I began to apply that into other areas of my life, and I slowly began to also, and as you know, I had multi-organ failure, so I was consistently doing blood tests on myself, seeing what was actually working. I wanted to see, okay, what happens if I did a month of straight green drinks? What happens if I did a month of, nothing but eggs, which I did for 2 months straight. I ate nothing but 2 cartons of eggs a day and a stick of butter a day. And I wanted to see, and I could actually, say what happens when I took this supplement for a month. And I could see which was making the difference. And I was able to became an expert at reading blood tests. And at the same time, I said, well, I started to say, well, wait a minute. If this is, I coached a few people to do a Tough Mudder. And at the time, I remember it was called the 100-Day Transformation. I was like, I had 100 days to prepare for this thing. And over that period of time, I transformed, not only did I transform my body, transform my biomarkers, I was able to cut my cholesterol by almost in half, and I was able to lower my triglycerides to the low 20s, and I doubled my testosterone. And this was all, and I said, if I could put this in a pill and sell it, this would be the #1 blockbuster drug on the planet. I was like, how do I actually get this to more people? How do I help more people? How do I impact more people? And so what happened is, at that time is when I created Inner Power Fitness. And Inner Power Fitness was essentially about short-term transformations. I used to call myself a natural plastic surgeon because I could create transformations very, very quickly in a fraction of the time. And I can talk about how I did that. But I knew that the pros, you see, like the bodybuilders, they manipulate testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin. I knew that there was ways to actually do those things naturally by the way that you live, the way that you eat, the way that you train, and you can't get, crazy levels like that, but you can get, you can reach your genetic potential much, much faster than most people ever could. And so, because, and I could talk about that, but so what it happened is, so then I did that, and I started to experience extraordinary change. Then this past year, and I started a company called Biohack, but it was not intentional. It was by accident. Allie, my wife who you talked to, she challenged me to do a fast. And I was like, yeah, I know about the benefits of fasting. And I'm immersed in longevity at the time. And I said, there's some benefits. And she said, no, let's do a 10-day fast. I'm like, gosh, 10 days, that's incredibly long. We ended up doing 12 days, but I ended up starting a business called Biofast Health Global. And essentially that is, a health and nutrition company that focuses on longevity, healing, health, and optimum healing and performance on a cellular level. And really what we specialize in is bioenergetics. I'm a quantum biologist, and essentially I am able to utilize all frequencies of light in the sun and the energy around us in the environment. When I say energy, I'm actually talking about like the negative ions in the earth, not like not woo-woo energy, but actually like real scientific energy we have uncovered in recent scientific studies over the past few years that has allowed us to do some extraordinary things on a cellular level. And so what that has really taken off in an area where, especially within the past few months, where not only have I been able to reverse, and we actually track it. We're able to not just reverse all your biomarkers, but we're actually able to track your biological age, reverse your biological age, create, introduce all sorts of extraordinary levels of healing that most people used to typically say was not possible. And so that's what we do now. And at the same time, I continue the way that let me back up a little bit. When I woke up in the hospital, I went to rehab, and I heard about this guy, Tony Robbins. And when I was there, I said, I would like to go see him, but I didn't have the money. And I ended up looking online, and I ended up finding an essay contest where it was a 1,000-word essay on how you want to get back to society. I ended up writing this essay, and it was great because it wasn't about my past, it was about the future. It said, how do you want to contribute to society? And what are you going to do to make that possible? So I was like, great, I could come up with anything. So I just wrote, and then I didn't realize I had to do it later, but I'll get into that. But so I wrote this essay. I was on where essay. They told me I was a finalist a few months later. Then they told me I was a grand prize winner. They flew me out to Chicago, all expense paid, and I went to UPW, like 3 months sober, and it rocked my world, blew my mind. And I said, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want more of it. And at the same time, so I started speaking all across. I started speaking because I was on the AA speaking circuit. So I started speaking all across the country as I'm actually working with Tony, and I never missed an event. I was like, okay, because after you go, you can actually crew. And so I continued to, I just stayed in that environment. So I just started coaching, I started helping people, and I started speaking to larger audiences. And I saw that I could help people transform their tragedies into triumphs, regardless of what the condition was. It wasn't just drugs and alcohol. It was, whatever, areas of their life that they were having difficulty overcoming. And that continued to progress and grow into a conglomerate right now, which is essentially a mix of Empower Unleashed and Biofast Health, which are essentially just different branches of the exact same thing. Is how do we excel and achieve extraordinary human performance in our own lives and in our businesses. And so that's,
wow.
Yeah. So that's what I'm, and at the same time, the past few weeks with the coronavirus, I was speaking quite a lot about biohacking your immunity, about improving your physiology, how to improve your resistance. And I came across some opportunities regarding PPE. And what's interesting is now I am one of the, I try to see myself as the lowest cost provider of PPE in the country. And I try to consistently maintain that. And so and that's just another, it's, you talk about being entrepreneurial, but, and I'm still doing podcasts, still sharing, still helping people. But right now, my full time is just really sharing, providing masks, all types of masks, all shields, booties, the body suits. I mean, you name it, we have it. And we're sharing that all across the country and all across the world as well. And so that's been something that is really, it was an industry that wasn't here 2 weeks ago. And so I've been doing that quite extensively from my laptop in Mexico. And it's been incredible, man. It's been incredible. So yeah, so here I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, so here's the deal. I'm just finding, and I'm gonna start this and we're getting an interview too. I'm so glad we did this part first, because now I wrote down everything and we're gonna time travel that like an interview. And I'm glad you did it, and I'm glad you talked kind of like I talked, so you covered a lot.
Yeah.
So where I'm at right now, just so you know, John, and I know you're very successful.
Yeah.
I'm not at your level of success right now. But what I've noticed is my gift, exactly like you noticed, that I can take any challenge for people. I have testimonies and people referring me of whatever pain they're in. There was a dude on Instagram Live that I jump on. I coach people for free. It was how I started it, right?
Yeah.
And I get them into Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins or something. And now they get their mind going. And now I have people making money, but I only make money if they don't do drugs or they're not, right? I qualify, right?
Yes.
But this is a totally new, like I've always coached people, like helping out kind of. I did a few for like money. Now this is it. This is my business. And people, I'm actually building it's called Changing Lives Coaching. And I'm having other people apply because I want, this as a coach, you want to help as many people. And I can only coach one person at a time,
Yes.
So I wrote a book coming out in 2 weeks, right?
Oh, so really badass, man.
Yeah,
badass.
Yeah, so just all the things that I've learned in the coaching. It's like a 24-page booklet that's going to come out. It's going to help people. It's going to have, I'm always the money guy. That's kind of my thing. Although I did switch my YouTube channel. This is where I grew up recently on all Corona and inspiring people. So if it's okay with you, what we're going to do is that's how we're going to do this as episode 2 of Corona Chronicles, which is what I did.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. And we're going to style it that way because I feel like it meets with biohacking health, with the immune system, and with your story, right?
Absolutely.
So if people, because a lot of people, alcohol sales are up right now at package stores. People are drinking and getting their problems. I want this interview to get in front of them so we can change some lives. You know?
Wonderful. Love it, man.
Wow. So, and I'm going to ask you questions about coaching, and we'll get all into it, all right?
Please.
Good. All right, so I'm going to start this now because I keep saying your bandwidth is low, and so here's the deal. I looked you up. I saw Biohack Health. I knew another guy. I'll bring him up who did it, and I was just like, oh, one of these dudes. All right. I didn't know it would be this good. As soon as I saw it, I didn't know. How do you find Grant Cardone, by the way? Through Tony
Oh
Robbins,
yes, gosh, yeah. Well, see, the thing is that there's, we like ourselves, we have mentors, of the best and the best, and even though Grant doesn't know me, the fact is he is a mentor of mine. When you hear his audiobook, it's him coaching, it's him reading it, verbatim, and which is why I love his audiobooks, because it's actually his voice. So you're driving around and you have his personal coaching, and that's what I like. I enjoy that, and so the more that I can actually get in and fill my mind, fill my subconscious, with that level of thinking, with that level of tenacity, and with that level of focus and clarity about what it is we can create, the more it actually manifests itself. And so that's really why and how I became attached to listening to people like Grant and people.
So Tony Robbins changed my brother's life. I poo-pooed it. I had a big ego back in the day.
Oh, right?
I thought it needed to change, right? I was a quarterback. A hot chick liked me. I thought I had it all, right? I was spending all the money on the hot chick, spending all the money on alcohol to impress people that I didn't like to fit in. And now, dude, I just give back. I help people.
That's
and
awesome,
we're going to help a lot of people with this. I'm going to put out promotions. We'll cut it. So I'm going to start this right. 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait. 3, 2, 1. Go. This is awesome. And you have that. All right. It's Jeff J here to make your day. Welcome to episode 2 of the Chronicles. We're going to put this everywhere. I am actually really proud. A guy I didn't know too much about, but we did actually a whole introduction. And this guy's done it all. He has won an essay contest for Tony Robbins, which if you don't know who that is, look him up. He has also overcame alcohol and he went through his darkest days to now biohack health and coach people to empower themselves with a company called Empower and Lead. He's live from Mexico right now.
That's right.
Still helping people in the Corona Chronicles. We'll call this episode 2 here because he's helping people with PPE right now, right from his own laptop.
Indeed.
He is the Jonathan Clark, who we're going to get Grant Cardone to know about. He knows about me, he'll know about you. Because you're doing a lot of good things. Jonathan, all right, that was my little introduction.
Thank you, brother.
Now, can you give just like a 60-second view of what you are, what you do now, and then we'll get into your story.
Okay, I'm a biohacker. I'm a quantum biologist. I have a company called BioFast Health Global, and we are focused on longevity, health, and healing, and biohacking your biology to help people become the highest and best performing version of themselves. And that's physically, that's mentally, and that's on a cellular level where we get down to the bioenergetics of the cell itself and maximize the energy utilization to them to be and perform and show up in their lives the best they possibly can. And so that's what I do now.
So that's good. So we're going to get into your story. It's funny that you say that because when I started making money in my entrepreneurial version, one of the things I did was I sold a little membership course for health over wealth. And I tried to be a doctor and fuse it because I was like, no matter how much money I get, if I don't have my health, I don't have anything. So let me get the health rate first, right?
That's
so I've always been a big advocate for that, although I definitely focus on the money side more as long as you're doing the right. The thing is the Dr. Hyman, who I copied his stuff, I almost got in trouble because I'm a good marketer. So maybe that's something later on that we can have you be a part of once we brand that out again. So I still have that going on, but I think what you have to offer is amazing. You didn't just wake up and start biohacking health. So for everybody knowing, and we're going to talk to the person who's sitting home in their coronavirus, they're locked in, and maybe they bought some alcohol just to relax.
Okay.
So tell them about your story where you started.
Okay. Well, I wasn't, although I may look healthy, I wasn't always healthy. And matter of fact, when I began my journey, I was extremely sick. I was dying. I was on my deathbed. I had multiple organ failure, and I did not feel like I had any options. And the only option at the time was more of external things to make me feel better, to fill me up. And whether that's alcohol, drugs, whatever it was, more money, more this, more that. And none of those things were actually working until I reached the bottom. And at that point is where there was a transformation. At that point, I woke up in the hospital, and they said that I had multi-organ failure, and they had rhabdomyolysis, acidosis of the blood, and acute renal failure. And they said that they'd be surprised if I make it through the weekend. At that point, I had a choice. I was continuing to go on to the bitter end, which would have led me to death, most surely. But I was given a second chance. Was given a chance at life, and I took it and I ran with it, and I just didn't run with it, but I had to find a way. You had to find a vision. You have to find a path forward. And the only way to do that for me is to follow and look at the footsteps and the path laid by other high achievers who have gone before you. And that's what I did. And that's when I did. And I can get into that. I don't know if you want me to continue to tell that story, or
I want to go into Rachel. I do want to ask you. So organ failure. So you mentioned you went into drinking and all that too.
Yes.
Did the organ failure happen before the drinking?
Yes.
Was it like a?
Well, yes. Well, what happened is apparently no. Yes, it was. It was the drinking and the drugs. Yes. Apparently, I had acute renal failure. My kidneys had completely shut down, and the rhabdomyolysis and the acidosis of the blood had caused my kidneys to shut down. And when your kidneys shut down, you actually can't live very long. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. And it wasn't until I actually woke in the hospital that I knew that basically I was dying. I had no clue. I was just continuing to go on and on and on, not realizing that something was horribly wrong. And it was just by the grace of God that I ended up where I did. And by the grace of God that I was there and able to have a second chance on life, because it was not, if it had been in my hands, then I'd be just a statistic. But today is different.
So I'm 34 now, right?
Yeah.
I used to drink to impress girls back in the day. What led it? I never got like a huge drinking problem where I was like kind of that, but you know, I was kind of a lightweight.
Yeah.
But what led to the point where you like drank so much and did drugs?
Okay.
What was the part? What were you trying to escape there?
What was I trying to escape? You know, the fact is
or
that
you're trying to fit in. Like
I was trying to. You know, it's interesting. I am a spiritual person, and a lot of people say that I was trying to. We say that I was trying to fill a God-sized hole in myself with everything, but God, but the divine, but the supreme. And I was actually trying to, you know, more money, more drugs, more alcohol, more this, more that. And no matter what I actually did, there was never enough. And I actually began depressed, and I was, you know, working at a hedge fund at the time, and I was just, and I wasn't doing anything for anybody. I was actually just, you know, working with numbers on the screen, making rich people richer, and not helping anybody else. And it was this self-centered focus, this ego-based focus that led me to my bottom. But thank God that it did, because it was only by actually hitting that bottom that I was able to realize how much potential, how much abundance, how much incredible, you know, ability that each of us have when we actually just realign our focus to looking upward instead of looking downward.
So when you say you're a spiritual person,
yes.
What do you say? I always say I'm a Jesus guy, although Brad Lee would say you're a Yeshua guy. That's really Jesus' name. But either way, are you spiritual on that level? Are you Muslim or where you at?
Well, let me say I'm Christian based. A lot of Christians would not necessarily look at me as a Christian, but that's because, I am Christian based. I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in the Bible, but I also believe that as I've become more awakened, that I've seen that there are things that are not in the Bible that are actually true to our abundance of the human spirit, to our potential, to, you know, who we are in just truthfully, for me, my temple, you know, I don't necessarily need to go to church to actually go, you know, to speak to the divine. I can actually go within and actually get in contact with all that is and all that is around us. So that's my spiritual beliefs.
My man. So I believe totally like that. I think I never like to say I'm a Christian, because I think a lot of Christians make a bad rap for that a lot of times.
I would say that. Yeah, I would say I am, but a lot of fundamentalists wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But
right. It's almost like if people say Muslim and people think Muslims are only people bombing stuff. You know what I mean?
Well,
kind of like that.
A lot of people don't realize that Jesus was not a Christian. They're like that was, and people say, well, and people get shocked about that, but that's the reality.
No.
Actually, we have actually built, you know, we have recreated. It's
man-made.
Yeah, we recreated God in the image of man, as opposed to the opposite way around. And so that's.
Well, we'll get it. So I've heard this. I usually don't go that route.
No, that's okay.
Tough questions.
That's okay.
So and I don't hide away from. So let's talk about this. So when you were making hedge fund, making people richer, I want to talk about that part of your life. Okay. Were you working for the White House at one point?
Yes, that was my first job, and truthfully, how
old were you?
I was 18 years old.
18, and you were working for the White House.
Yes, and I had a big head, I had a big ego, and I didn't appreciate what I had, and truthfully, and I was still. And even at the time, I was drinking and smoking weed and all those things that, you know, we do, and still looking outside myself for the answer. Still looking, you know, out there. Okay, there's had to be something out there, and that progressed for another 10 years. I mean, by the time that we're actually talking about, which was, you know, a little bit over 5 years ago now, when I actually had my reawakening, my rude awakening, whatever you like to call it, And that's when I realized. But up until that point, I was continuing. I was stuck in. I don't like to, the American dream is possible, but I also want people to understand that most of us, at least at a certain period of our life, are in a dream. We actually, then some things usually have to happen to us for us to wake up, for us to realize, wait a minute, we do have extraordinary potential. We do have, an incredible abundance. We do have, unlimited resources. And I tell people all the time, people say, well, if you only look at what you can do with how much money you have in your bank account, you'll always be stuck. But if you look at what's possible, if you look at the resources you have, we all have the same temporal resources as everybody else in the world, 168 hours per week to do with as we choose. And that is, there's nobody on this planet that has more time than you to actually think, to actually prepare, and actually utilize those resources to the best of your ability. And the thing is that, and those that are able to do that well are the ones that are able to get ahead. And I didn't know these things. This is when I was in I call it, not the American dream, but the American sleep, the American slumber. And I was in that illusion for a long period of time. And yes, I may have had, some extra, cash in my bank account, but that actually was not creating any sense of fulfillment. And it wasn't until that I realized the truth that I became awakened. But I actually had to almost die in order to get to that point.
So now you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
They say you're not going to live for a week.
Yeah.
And now, so that the pain equals change, which me and you both coach, and we'll talk about coaching a little bit, right? I haven't had my brother had to pass this way to me to realize my full potential. So what I know you wrote an essay and you won it for Tony Robbins. How did you first discover Tony Robbins out of that thing? Where was it, a book?
Okay. All right. This is the crazy part. I was in rehab and I heard about this guy, Tony Robbins. I wanted to see him, but at the time I was like, well,
wait, how did you hear of him? Because I'm a marketing guy. How did one of the rehab people tell you? Or?
I think I had, there must have been, someone may have spoken about him in the actual event. And I said, okay, well I'd like to go see him. So I kind of, we have like an hour, like a little time that you have on the computer. And so I had that little time and it said that you, and I looked and I found an essay, it was a contest and I loved it because it wasn't about my past. It wasn't based upon what you've done and what you've achieved. No, it was a question that was based on the future of what you could do. And that was when the light switched for me, because the question was not, how many degrees do you have? But the question was, what could you do to give back to society, and how do you plan to make that possible? And for me, I was like, I never realized that the potential of creation of something in the future is really as broad as your imagination. So the more that you can imagine, the more you can potentially create. And so I was like, well, if I had the opportunity to do anything, what would I do? What would I create? And that's what I answered. And I said, okay, I could do this. I could do this. Oh, this would be cool too. And I didn't realize later that I actually had to do it. And I found out later, and I did. And I achieved that when I actually got to the event. But in the beginning, it was just using my imagination and seeing what's possible and thinking bigger than I was. And when I realized that when you hear people think bigger than you are, but the reality, we're not thinking bigger than we are. We're actually stepping into who our true potential is. We're just actually, right now, all of us, we are only at a fraction of our true potential, only at a fraction of who we could be, of what the best version of Jeff could be doing right now. And this is how, when I coach people, I tell them, what is the $1 million version of Jeff doing right now? What is the $1 million version of you doing right now that you could be doing differently if that was you? And so then I step it up. Then I say, okay, what about the $50 million version of you? What about the $100 million version of you? And these are things that continue to cause us to think greater, think bigger, and step into the true version of what we could be. And I love the quote. I love it. It says that if you look at a man as they are, they only get worse. But if you look at a man as they could be, they become what they should be.
Wow. I love that. Yeah, that's really so.
Yes.
Yeah, so really, it's man, I could tell you're speaking. You just don't, man.
Yes, yeah.
So, and I love it, man. And it's funny. I'm actually mad that I haven't discovered you sooner, because you definitely say a lot of stuff that's very true, very, very how it is. So when you went and applied for the essay and got into the whole went to the Tony Robbins event, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of people like turn off the event. And I want to ask you this question actually.
Sure.
At rehab, like I used to teach middle school kids. They were very mental. Anytime I brought Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins to these kids, it was like frowned upon. Like, what are you teaching them, right? And the kids loved it. And I still taught it anyway because I'm an entrepreneur. And it's changing lives, man. That's what it's about. And if whether it's me, you, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, whoever it is giving the information to feed them that can actually help their life better, and that's more important. There's a stigma on it. I don't know if it is about like if I have to run for president, I'm going to change all rehab to mandatory teach Tony Robbins stuff. Don't you think that's a good idea?
I absolutely do. The fact is that at that point for me, that I was out of solutions. I had actually tried to get sober on my own in the past, and none of those things on my own were working. So when I awoke in the hospital, my solution was to listen to others very, very closely, other successful people very, very closely. And it's truth, because what's the quickest way to get rich, Jeff? And I remember asking that question. And the quickest way to get rich is to do what rich people do. The quickest way to get healthy is to do what healthy people do. The quickest way to get anything is to do what they do, and you'll get what they got. And so for me, it was all of a sudden, for a moment, set aside, the old ways of doing things and be open to something new and what was working for other people. And I did, and I applied that. I applied those patterns. I applied those, those success principles. I applied those things and actually got more than I ever thought that I would have as a result. And that's what I encourage others to do the same. We're not walking blindly. There are many people who have dealt with the same challenges, the same struggles, and the same issues that we have dealt with and that we are dealing with now, and have overcome them. And so there's so much to learn, from other people, that if we look at our lives and only go by what we've actually experienced, we're going to live a limited life. We have to look outside. We have to actually see what else is there to actually be able to live an expansive life, because we're only on this planet for a limited amount of years. And instead of, being right now, you're 34, instead of having the experience of 34 years, you can have the experience of hundreds of years by actually just utilizing your resources, utilizing your mentors, and utilizing their years as well to lift you and take you the direction you want to go. So that's
right,
my
and
thought.
I think that's what I sell in coaching all the time is you can do it, but a coach will get you faster. They've done it all before. That's
Exactly.
this is why it works, right? And they'll motivate you and give you an action plan, right?
Yes.
Which is what I've done. So which is awesome. And I actually do want to explain. So at what point, so you go to Tony Robbins and you write the essay, you want to, I don't know if you even said it, but you've told me before. You want to
I sent it online.
essay,
I sent it
right?
on. It's actually published. Yeah, it's still online now. So yeah.
I got to check it out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what point did you realize money is important to do where you, because I always ask that question on here.
I'm sorry, you broke up. Say the question one more time.
At what point did you realize when you're at Tony Robbins event, you got there for free, at what point did you realize that money's important to get where you want to get?
Well, see, here's the thing. In order to amplify, because I wanted to help people, that was an innate desire that I had. Okay, like I've overcome some incredible challenges and overturned some incredible tragedies into triumphs. And so my thought was, well, I want to help others do the same. And I started, just like you, I was mentoring one-on-one for free, and it was something called sponsorship. And I wanted to help people, and I was sponsoring them, but I found out it was limited. I could only help a small number of people, and I was limited by the amount of time I had. And I said, wait a minute, I need a force amplifier. I need something that will actually amplify my reach to help more people. And then I realized the only way to actually do that is to produce more money. Produce more income is the only way to actually to reach and achieve what my highest values were for helping others. And so that's when it all came together. And I saw that, wait a minute, I was like, this is what it's about. And they say that how do you make more money? You help more people. And so when I realized that those two were linked, then it actually came together. And that's truthfully what has happened in the past few weeks, is that before, I am oh, nice.
And then you're live, man. You're so good. We need the world to know about Jonathan Clark, man. This guy's good.
And so
that's what. And again, you're in Mexico, right?
I am in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. It's right beneath Cancun, and about a half hour north of Tulum.
So did you hightail it there because of coronavirus and was the last?
No.
Or do you have a place there?
Well, no, I'm actually here for health reasons, believe it or not. A lot of people don't understand because, again, I'm a quantum biologist, I'm a scientist, and I also understand not just the science of the body, but the way that the science of our environment impacts our body.
What is really quick? What is a quantum biologist? Do you have to go back to school for that?
Okay.
Or is that
No, I have studied. I have gotten so many. I have more certifications and more things behind my name than I care to mention. I have 5 degrees, and those things. But truthfully, those things actually don't matter. I mean, I could talk about them, but like but what actually matters is what am I doing with it? It's not what you know. It's what are you doing with what you know, and that's
boom. We gotta get you. Do you know Brad Lee?
Maybe he's a coach, right?
He does a podcast dropping bombs. He's Grant Cardone's guy. You just dropped a whole bunch of bombs here on Brad Lee's thing. He does it in Vegas.
I love to.
So I'm gonna connect.
Love to. And so, but what we do is we study the way that our environment, more specifically light and photons, which are essentially all the frequencies of the electromagnetic field, impact the cells in your body on a very specific level. And I used to think this all starts with the sun. I used to think the sun was just a ball of fire in the sky, and I looked up and it was bright, and that was basically it. And it was the same throughout the whole day. I come to find out that the sun has frequencies of light, and the frequencies of light can be changed throughout the day. And not only that, but they can be sliced up just like an onion. And different frequencies of the sun do different things to your cells and turn on different genes, turn off different functions, different processes, different enzymes, and different things that actually make you more of what you're capable of or less than what you're capable of. And I had no idea. And now that I actually understand that, I can utilize it just like a doctor would a drug. And you can actually utilize the different frequencies to create different outcomes in the body. And I remember when I first really realized this is when someone told me to look up a book. They said that, there's no multiple sclerosis on the equator. And I said, what do you mean there's no multiple sclerosis on the equator? That doesn't make any sense. And so I actually looked it up, and there's no multiple sclerosis on the equator. So my question is, why? What the hell is actually happening on the equator? Come to find out, there's a lot of different things happening, not just with the sun, but also with the earth and with the fields surrounding us, both the electric field and the magnetic field. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm here, because this has, a lot of people don't know that the Yucatan Peninsula is one of the most healing places on the planet, because 300 million years ago, a asteroid or a meteor hit the Yucatan Peninsula and killed all the dinosaurs. And at that point, the ground essentially came reversed from about the sea, from the bottom of the sea up to the surface. And this area has the thinnest surface area of crust that actually separates us from the electromagnetic dynamo that is spinning underneath the ground. And so the gravitational field and the electric field here is higher than anywhere else on the planet. Now, this is all science. This isn't like this woo-woo stuff.
I know that. So believe it or not, I used to study earth science.
Oh, really?
Earth science. So I know awesome. That. Yeah. Plus, my mom passed away of breast cancer, and when we were looking to heal her, I remember researching this with my mom. So what he's saying, guys, while he's talking, he knows. Now, are you a doctor by trade?
I am not. I'm not an MD. I'm not an MD. I'm a nutritionist. I am working on my PhD right now. I'm in school. Yes, I'll be getting that.
That's what it matters. You just talk so much like a doctor. You're brilliant. Yeah. You're so smart. You do it. You rattle it off, but I'm keeping up. This is unbelievable. So you're here for health reasons. So is that the healthiest place to be for Corona right now?
It actually is. I mean, a number of, if you look at the actual geographic dispersions of the coronavirus, there's a few things that are very difficult for the coronavirus to thrive in. One is heat, the other is humidity. And one of the things about wherever you are is we have the highest heat right now. It's 90 degrees outside, and and it's extremely humid. And so, and this is one of the things I can actually send you an article. What they were trying to figure out why. Other scientists were trying to figure out why the coronavirus cases in this area are so particularly low. And a lot of people say, well, they're just behind the curve and they just haven't gotten it yet. But the reality is that the high levels of vitamin D and high levels of ultraviolet light is is higher than anywhere else on the planet. Especially the closer to the equator that you go, the more UV light that you get. And so I have a little app on my phone that measures by the second how much vitamin D is actually being transferred from ultraviolet light into the skin, and I can actually see what my vitamin D levels are. And so those who are actually trying to optimize their something called innate immunity, which is their ability to fight off new viruses without having been exposed to them in the past, I recommend that people either get lots of sun during the day, and if they don't have an opportunity to get sun, to make sure that their vitamin D3 levels are above 100 nanometers or more, because and that on average, so that if you were taking a supplement, will be around 2,000 IUs a day.
So what's the app called?
A D-Minder.
D-Minder, all right.
Yeah.
D-Minder.
Yes.
And then the second thing is, so with coronavirus, and I know we kind of just jumped right into this.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm excited
but I like
about
the
all
way
this
goes.
Yes.
But so that's one thing of my worry with all the health study that I've done, and my brother's more the really big health guy, Josh. So he's great. What I worried about people being isolated, you know.
Okay, let me say this. And I don't know if you've seen any amount of videos, but I've talked about this recently. There's a few things that are going to happen right now as we play the tape forward for the next couple months. One is that we can continue to wait in our homes and wait until a vaccine is presented, and then finally come out when the vaccine has been released, and then we get the vaccine, and then we can go back to normal. Or we get exposed to the virus and create something called herd immunity. Now, you may have heard of that before. That means when enough people in the population have it to where it's no longer a threat to people that don't have it. But in order for that to happen, it has to be a large number. And right now, the number is between 76 and 85%, which we're averaging around at 80%. 80% of the people have to have it before herd immunity occurs. So my question is, are we gonna wait until the vaccine comes out, or are we going to wait until herd immunity comes along? So there's a few different things, and me personally, I support others if they want to get vaccinated, they can. I have issues with it because I actually know that some vaccines can be harmful, especially even the flu vaccine. A lot of people don't know the flu vaccine actually lowers your immunity. So if you actually get the flu vaccine, you're actually going to expose yourself to potentially getting the coronavirus later. And so that's something that, and a lot of people think, well, if I'm exposed to it, I'm at risk of dying. Let me say, right now, the death toll and the death rate is around 2% if you do a global average. Okay, when you actually look, and so that means that 98% of the people listening to my voice, listening to us right now, will get through this thing just fine. Okay, so then you actually look at, okay, well, what about those 2%? What's actually happening to them? They were exposed and they got sick, but why? And so there's two ways you can get the virus. One, you can have someone who has the coronavirus and they cough in your face like a doctor that's coughing in the face of a patient that's coughing in the face of a doctor, and that doctor inhales 10,000 viruses all at once. All of a sudden, the body in the lungs is overwhelmed with viruses that start replicating, and then what's called a cytokine storm happens within the lungs. The lungs begin to fill with fluid, and the person is unable to actually process oxygen and passes away. That's what has happened to those that have died. And then you have the other case with those people who have been exposed, who have gotten it, and are perfectly fine. Well, what happened to them? Well, that case, they got, let's say, one virus being inhaled, and it comes in and it starts to replicate, but before it actually starts to spread, the body is able to mount an immune defense. It is able to actually do what the body does naturally, to create a natural defense against it, and there's different parts of the immune system that work together so it doesn't overwhelm the body, and you may experience as a slight cough, and all of a sudden, before you even know it, you're immune. And the thing is, what we're finding is that for a broad majority of people, 80% of people will be asymptomatic, which means they're not going to show any symptoms. They're not even going to know that they had it. And so the question is that if I'm good and I'm out there, I'm a person who's active, I'm active in society, I'm engaging with people, so I'm probably going to get exposed. So my question is this: how do I want to get exposed? Do I want to get exposed through a vaccine, or do I want to get exposed through my own choice? And I want to be exposed when my immune system is at its best, when I'm getting maximum vitamin D from the sun, when my grounding, which enhances my negative charge, which enhances something called your exclusion zone level within your blood, and actually charges your biological battery and your redox potential within your cells, allows your body to fight off this thing and fight off pathogens very easily. So if you want to be exposed, you want to be exposed during the summer when the sunlight is at its peak, and you want to be exposed when your body is at its healthiest. And when that happens, the fact is that you'll get through this thing just fine. And I tell people this, I teach them how to do it, I help people process it, and there's actually a way to do it and do it successfully. And the thing is that, it's interesting because I'm in PPE, so I'm in protective, I'm in the personal protective equipment field, but I'm also at the same time, I know how to help people be prepared and protect themselves naturally as well.
Well, that's why I wish we had you up there instead of the little guy, Dr. Fauci.
Oh,
because,
gosh, yes.
I don't want to get on. My mission statement in life is inspire others always, all right?
Yes,
that's my mission statement. So one thing I want you to speak on, and there's this other Indian doctor, I don't know his name, but I listened to him. He speaks about the immune system and how that's important. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like they're pushing more for a vaccine approach than they are just to actually get your immune system right. Am I wrong, or am I just
No, you are exactly right. You're exactly right.
Talk about the importance of the immune system for everybody watching who's locked in. What they can do, 3 things to help them build up their immune system. That's better than listening to the news.
Well, first, let me say, there's no way that we could get here as a species if our immune system didn't do what it was supposed to do. And the fact is that there are coronaviruses that have been around with us for millions of years, but our immune system knows exactly what to do when we are at our healthiest. The truth is that Dr. Fauci and others who are speaking about this issue should really not just be talking about washing your hands and staying inside as if that's the only way to protect yourself. The way to protect yourself is to make sure that you are the healthiest that you can be. And so the first thing, without question, is make sure that you maximize your vitamin D3 levels through sunlight, and if you don't have sunlight, through supplementation. The second thing, without question, is I would recommend is vitamin C. And I right now take between 10 and 20 grams a day. I just put it in a bottle of water. I just put 5 grams in a bottle of water, and I have like 4 bottles a day. But it tastes great to the water. I also have something called liposomal vitamin C. That's something that we provide with BioFast Health. It's the best form of vitamin C that you can absolutely find. The third thing that I would actually recommend, and this is something that a lot of people aren't aware of, is something called well, let me say this. The way that the immune system responds to those that actually experience ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress, and the way that it actually kills people is because their immune system overreacts. And there's a reason why it overreacts more in men instead of women. It actually has to do with estrogen. And estrogen creates a misbalance between testosterone creates a misbalance between the Th1 cells and Th2. So those who are Th1 dominant experience a greater cytokine storm than those who are Th2 dominant. But what actually creates that Th1 or Th2 imbalance? Well, something interesting we just discovered is that nicotine actually has a great stimulatory impact on your Th2 receptors, and it actually causes a reduction in the Th1 and the cytokine storm as a result. You hear a lot of people and they say, well, maybe I should get some echinacea, or maybe I should get some sort of immune booster that they're used to taking. And here's what I would actually say. Unfortunately, I would actually doubt that back. And here's why. Because your immune system isn't just a light switch. It's more like a military. And you have your stealth bombers, your aircraft carriers, you got your infantry, you have all these different things that do different things, and you got your nuclear weapons, right? Well, those who are Th1 dominant, they essentially have a lot of nuclear weapons, and they don't have a lot of aircraft. They don't have a lot of planes. And so they come in and it tries to, so those that actually when you take things like echinacea, or when you take elderberry syrup, which you would do during a normal flu, you're going to increase the number of nuclear bombs that you have available, and that's typically would help. But in this situation, your immune system goes in overdrive. A cytokine storm happens as a result, and the immune system starts poking holes in the lungs. And this is what actually causes the acute respiratory distress so rapidly, and actually what can cause somebody to fade away just in a matter of days. And so there's certain things, but let me say this, do not be afraid, because the people that it happens to, 70% of them have comorbidities associated with it. And those are usually, and interestingly enough, they're all obesity related. They're either heart disease, diabetes, or cancer related. And all those things actually can be, and hypertension as well. And all those things can be ameliorated by becoming the best and healthiest versions of ourselves.
Well, and dude, you don't need a PhD. You're a doctor right now. I mean, you already are, but I'll give it to you right now. You know more than half the doctors I speak to, man.
Yeah.
So you obviously have a passion for it and a passion to help people. And that's why we're getting the message out, and I love it. So at what point, because I'm an entrepreneur now, this is my journey, what point did you make it a business and stop working for the main, because I think this is kind of a business now.
Yes.
It's your business.
It is.
So what point, after the Anthony Robbins thing, when was, because I just started getting paid for coaching.
Yes.
And at first it felt like kind of guilty, like, I just want to help people, right? Yeah. But then I know some people they pay attention, they take attention,
exactly right? Exactly right.
You know, so what was the first time did you do the coaching business first and then it grew into this, or how did that work?
Yes, I did coaching, but when I first started Inner Power Unleashed, I was actually just working on and duplicating and implementing the patterns of extraordinary human achievements. And actually, and that was worked very well. But what I found is that when you duplicate the patterns of extraordinary performance and all areas of your life, health is one of those things that rises to the top very, very quickly. And I find that unless your health is right, you won't have wealth. And without your health, you don't have any wealth. Because here's the thing: right now, those who are actually they think they're at the top of their game, unless their mind is performing at its optimal ability, they are only operating at a fraction of what they could do. And so they are the best version of their limited self instead of the best version of their unlimited potential. And
that's awesome.
Yes. And so this is what I help people do. I started doing this on it one-on-one, started doing group coaching. And then I said, I need to help more people. So then we started doing this for corporations. And, I was actually going to be speaking, before the coronavirus hit, I was going to be speaking at Netflix, to be talking about biohacking corporate wellness and actually helping broader numbers of people. So actually helping, and this is what the thing is whatever it is that you do, if you can help extensions of yourself do that same thing, you can help more people. So whatever it is, whether it's, even if it's baking cookies, if it's this or whatever it is that your hustle or your drive or your business is, if you help extensions of yourself do that same business, all of a sudden it's a force multiplier. And all of a sudden your reach and your ability to help others multiplies. And I had to vision this because I used to say, I want to help 1 billion people across the planet, change their health and biohack their bodies to become the best version of themselves. But I never realized until, and it was early this year, when someone said, in order to help 1 billion people, you need 1,000 versions of you. And that's when it clicked. I was like, yes, because doing it myself would take too long to help 1 billion one-on-one. But when I've had 1,000 of me, I have, them helping another 1,000, all of a sudden, this becomes real. This becomes something that we can do. This is how the corporations, the reason why Microsoft is so successful is because it has 1 billion people who it's helping use their operating system. And so, that's, and the fact is that I realized that, wait a minute, I said, so we need force multipliers out there. And that's when I started not just turning this into a income, but turning this into a business, turning this into a business that actually helped people and impacted people across the globe. And truthfully, the connectivity that has been created with the enclosure inside is only amplified that, because now, this is a time period where we have to innovate. We have to, think greater. We cannot think, okay, we're enclosed, we just have to wait. No, now is the time to think of new ideas, connecting, new ideas of spreading, new ideas of helping and expanding your business. Because on the other side of this thing, there's a storm right now, but on the other side of this, there will be sun. And those that are able to prepare themselves now are the ones that are going to be the most successful when this is over. And that's something that we don't wait for then. We do that now. And we build it first in our mind, and then we build it in the world.
No, dude, I love it. And actually, I love everything about this. So biohacking health. There was a guy in the Grant Cardone thing who biohacked sleep. He taught it, and he showed that you can sleep 5 hours a night and get more done, right?
Yes.
So he's a nice guy. No hate towards him, but it was kind of like a crazy thing. Now, as an entrepreneur, I always think, I asked my mentor, Joe Tenati, who's great. He's my local mentor. This is where I learned. I said, hey, Joe, how many hours of sleep do we need? He goes, entrepreneurs like us, 4 to 5. Or he said 5 to 6, right? Yes. And I've always felt like I needed less sleep. But I know sleep is important, especially with the immune system. So what's your take on sleep and everything? How many hours do you need?
The truth is, okay, let me say, it depends on actually how you manipulate your light environment. The more, what I tell people, the first thing that they do in the morning when they wake up is they should see the sunrise. And there's a number of different reasons I say that. But there's only 30,000 sunrises in an average person's life. And I tell my clients to make sure that for the rest of their life, they don't miss another one. And here's why. Because a lot of people hear about this hormone called melatonin. melatonin is great, and they call it the sleepy time hormone, but they don't realize that it's actually produced depending on the frequencies of sunlight that you get during the morning. AM sun is absolutely critical. And so And so what happens is that when you start to manipulate your light environment, not just in the morning, but also as you're going to bed in the hours leading up before you go to sleep, you can maximize both your REM sleep and your deep sleep to where you don't have to sleep that much. If you maximize those things, you can sleep 5 hours and be completely rested. But if you're not getting much deep sleep, which is your rejuvenative sleep, and you're not getting much REM sleep, is when you start to ingrain your memories and consolidate your memories to long-term memory, then you're not going to have a restful sleep, and you're going to need more sleep than others. And so it can be hacked, but it has to do with like simple things. A lot of people don't even realize that when they go in the bathroom, when they wake up in the middle of the night and have to go pee, and they go in the bathroom and they turn on a bright light, all of a sudden their circadian rhythm is shut down. Their melatonin production is shut down. Their cortisol level spikes. Their blood glucose level spikes. Their fat burning shuts down. All of these things, which I had no idea. I had no idea that our light environment could manipulate the hormone system so rapidly. But it's true. And so when I started doing this with clients, I started to help them heal and transform their bodies and transform their fat loss in a way that I never thought was possible, just by doing a few simple things. So that's what.
Wow. Yeah. So, no, dude, you're so much value, so much time. I'm going to have you back on again. Now, so do you live in Mexico now, or do you come to the States, or where are you at?
I do. And gosh, I'm going to pause this real quickly. If you could hold that question and ask it again, because my battery's dying. And so I just,
so no, it's fine, because this is where we're at live. We're live here. I put everybody down. So guys, we're interviewing Jonathan Clark right now. This is live. I'm doing this. It's going to be on. I'm actually going to post this on because it's too much value to not put up on my YouTube channel tonight. You're going to see this guy. He talks about all the things that you can sleep less, live more, your immune system with this whole coronavirus, things you can take action now. He's in Mexico. He's pretty successful. They're actually, I'm holding out spots to the main podcast. Maybe we'll have him back on again for that, but I'm sure he's money. But this guy, who we got in here? Alejandro, wave thing. So this guy is literally a wealth of knowledge right now. So saying he's plugging in his thing. He's outside. So I did. I was in Carousel. One of my first businesses. I actually have it in one of my webinars I held. I was in Carousel. And I had a similar background out there.
What is that?
You're doing pretty well financially now, right? How long have you been in the business?
Well, 5 years ago, I started as soon as I started speaking. I realized, and I was doing that for free, just because I wanted to help people. And I was a circuit speaker in AA for a while. And in the beginning, I just started, and I said, "Wait a minute! I'm helping people, and not just the people who are in the program. This was parents. This was other people who were there. This was, and so that is. And so when I realized that, I said, "Wait a minute! This is something that I should use as an opportunity to both reap and create financial growth and wealth for myself, and at the same time help endless amounts of people going forward."
So obviously you're in Mexico. It's a pretty nice place. You're doing pretty well financially wise now.
Well, let me say yes. Let me say this is I'm quarantined in paradise right now. So,
yeah, I'm jealous, man.
It's a little warm right now. It is right now 90 degrees, and it cools off. Gosh, and even in the evenings though, it's 80s. So it's still warm, and that's truthfully as I make it like it's a bad thing, but it's actually phenomenal, and I wouldn't.
So how much? Because here's the thing. So right now where I'm at, maybe I'll ask you this advice. I can't coach everybody. Now someone who needs the Biohack Health, I'm going to spray you some referrals, right? I think everybody could get value from you, and refer, because I'm building up a system now. So now I'm taking applicants, so I can. Exactly what you said. That's where I know is I can only coach so many people.
Yeah.
Came off 2. As soon as I get off, I have to go send out action plans to Amber and Danny, who I just coached, right? Now mine is very money-based coaching. I give people money, and I take their skills and I find their passion to make money. But the thing about this, and I'm okay with it, and that's fine as long as their health is good. Because I always say, well, what's your regimen? What's your schedule look like? Do you beat the sun up? Like Grant Cardone teaches me beat the sun up. I watch a lot of sunrises because of it,
Good,
I will say I'm in my YouTube studio. Here, let me ask you this. I have 2 lights in here, 2 YouTube lights, right?
Yes.
I've noticed, and I feel almost like I have to say guilty. My dad knows I've been working late because the lights are on, and it's like New York City. I don't do it. What's the best way going forward? How I can work at the computer?
Okay, so here's the thing. Now you've actually heard of blue light blocking glasses, and maybe you haven't. Okay.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Screen.
Now, I usually, when I'm inside, I'm actually wearing my glasses. If you've seen any of my videos and I'm actually on screen, I'm wearing my glasses. Now, right now, you can get the cheap ones, which look like, mad scientist glasses, but they still work great. Or you can actually get the more expensive ones, which are clear, and it'll allow you to actually, see things without a tint. But those do incredibly well at actually allowing your hormonal system and not throwing your circadian rhythm off. Because here's the thing, because a lot of people say, well, why is your circadian rhythm so important? And I want you to understand that each of your cells are sending signals back and forth to each other cell. Now, if you think of your body as like UPS, right? And you're sending packages back and forth, and everyone has the same clock and the same time. But what if all of a sudden that your heart has a different clock than your brain, or has a different clock than your kidneys? All of a sudden, what happens? And people say, well, I don't know what happens. Well, think about what would happen if UPS started to have the wrong clock. What would happen? Shipments wouldn't get there on time, signal things would be missed, and all of a sudden there would be chaos. And what is chaos in the body? It's inflammation. And what is inflammation? It causes aging and it causes disease. And these are the things that just by something simple, by having your circadian rhythm optimizes your health and optimizes your performance, anything else that you do.
Wait, can I ask, how old are you?
I'm 38.
Yeah, I feel like you're never gonna age.
Well,
everything.
There's ways.
When was the last time you were? When was the last time you were sick?
Well, that's one of the, I'm glad you actually brought that up. That's one of the things we do is we actually not just stall and halt the aging process, but we reverse it. First, there is something called your biological age, and that's how, when you were born, and then there's your chronological age, which is how old you are. Then there's your biological age, which is how old your cells actually are. And there have been people that I know that, for example, a gentleman was 38 years old. He was able to lower his biological age to 21. There's another gentleman who's 21 now, who's able to lower it to 14. This is possible. A long time that we thought it was just a possibility. But now, David Sinclair at Harvard, he wrote a book called Lifespan. He's the guy who discovered resveratrol. He's actually uncovered that these things are actually possible. They are true and something that are happening all around us, depending on how you live your lifestyle. And see, here's what we have to understand: that disease is not about your genetics. And I tell people, your zip code is more important than your genetic code. Where you are, the environment that you live in, is absolutely critical to your health. And the further down south you are, the more sun that you need. But check this: the further up north you are, the more cold exposure that you need, and that in order to optimize your body. And these are things that we didn't know, but now that we understand, and that there's actually ways to do it, the body adapts, but it adapts to both intense sunlight and it adapts to cold. But because we're actually living in a westernized, industrialized society, we're not, getting cold enough to actually turn on these things called sirtuins, which are the body's natural anti-aging protectors within the cells that actually turn on when we have little bits of stress. And these are healthy stresses. Exercise it's called hormetic stressors. Exercise is a stress. Heat's a stress. Cold is a stress. These are things that are actually, that when you have brief intermittent bouts of them, you actually have, your body responds in a healthier way and makes yourself stronger. And the same thing, check this, and this is even more interesting, is that when we eat plants that have been stressed, we get the benefits of them, just like a kale plant. A kale plant is good for you because it's something called xenohormesis. That plant has actually been exposed to intense sun and has been exposed to maybe a little bit of a drought. And if you know that plants that have intense sun and a little bit of a drought actually create more phytonutrients than others to actually protect themselves. And then when you eat that plant, you actually get the benefits from it that way as well. And so the body and life on this planet is very resilient, and it's okay to be exposed to a little bit of stress to improve your ability to perform. Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, how do you get so smart? Like, at what point did you get like tell me all that? Was it after you were drinking and hit rock bottom? You're like, let me pay attention to my body. Was that it?
Well, I knew that. See, I wanted to understand. Here's the thing.
Or when you were drinking and everything and all.
Yes, I was the best. I was. Yes, I kind of was.
Yeah, because there's some dudes I know who smoke weed and they're talking about like your body and everything.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
right?
I kind of was. And before I got there, what's interesting, I was going to be a physicist. A high energy particle physicist when I first went to school, but I couldn't handle the calculus. But that's now my hobby right now. Supersymmetric string theory is something that I continue to study even now, and understanding, the truth behind particles. And that's a whole other thing, but that's like something I love. And so I want to know it. For me, I have an issue with not understanding something. And I say, well, wait a minute, I know that the answer and the solution is there. And so I said, well, if it's possible to understand it, then I would want to understand it. And so that has taken me even deeper and helped me learn and understand more, to then be able to not just know it myself, to share that with others and help others do the same and enhance their lives. And so there's nothing been more rewarding, more fulfilling than that.
Yeah, no, I can totally tell that. So, so is that your place, or do you rent that place down there in Mexico?
This is our place. This is our place. This is our place. I've been here for maybe 18 months or so. Yeah, and it's I'm just moving into the sun. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
It's good, right?
Cool down here. Yeah,
you're practicing what you preach.
Yeah. I make sure that I do as much. And truthfully, what's interesting is I put on my shirt for the interview, because I try to. Yeah. The more parts of your body that's exposed to the sun, the more vitamin D that you produce, and the healthier you are. There's a number of different things that you can do, and so that.
Doctor, dude, my dad will love this, because my dad used to sit out on the deck with his shirt off, getting sun all the time, and he used to put like little things on his eyes. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, he always knew about it. I feel like I'm talking to my dad again, and so I've been pretty healthy. I think I've learned things I'm going to definitely take action on. So what's a way, like if I wanted to get, because I'm scaling my coaching to help people, when was the first time you actually accepted payment for coaching, and how much was it then, and how much is it now if someone want to come to you for coaching? Or should we not give the prices? They go on the line.
Well, they should reach out to me directly, because here's the thing: everybody's different, and some people need, don't need that much. And some people say, but then there are some people who need both life coaching and health coaching. There are some people who need full integration. There are some people who I need to work with on a one-on-one basis. And if they want that help, it is available to them, but there is a cost to that. There is an investment. People must realize that in order for your life to change, you have to make an investment. And so many people I hear, they want to change their life, but they say, well, they don't have, I mean, in the beginning, I remember that when I first started coaching, it was, just a couple $100 and, a month. And they would say, well, I don't know if I have that. And I'm thinking, how do you expect to change your life if you don't have a couple $100 to invest in yourself? And people, it's interesting, because there are a lot of people that actually they want a better life, they want better health, they want a better body, and they want better, a better job, but they're not willing to actually make that investment, because it's all an investment. And so, and realize, and here's the thing, when people pay, they pay attention, because information is free. You could go online right now and do any type of Google search on how to change your life, and you get a million things on YouTube. But what actually, people pay for is not just the information, but it's transformation. And in order to do that, you actually have to work with people one-on-one and meet them where they're at and lift them to what they could be. Again, it's the same thing that I said. If you look at a person as they are, they only get worse. But if you look at a person as they could be, they become what they should be.
Right. I think that any good coach does. They see someone what they could be, and then they help them see the vision, write it down.
And you have to hold them to it. You have to hold them. You have to hold them accountable. You have to hold them to that level.
Right. I make all my clients do like a 5-year plan so they see their own vision, and then we work towards it. Right.
Yes.
But and as you know, we're in the same field here. So I'm gonna ask you the 5 questions I normally ask. So what's best money advice? Like right now, like people are telling me I'm getting overbooked for coaching clients. They get referrals, all that stuff too, right? So now, and this is my only source of income right now. That's why I'm trying to over deliver, give them an action plan. What's the money advice for me as I'm finally finding something that's working right now?
Well, see, what's interesting, for you, I would actually have to find out exactly what's actually working in your business, and make sure that you're actually working on I call it your MITs. What are the most important things that are producing the most revenue in your business? And a lot of people, because we spread ourselves thin, we have a tendency to look at some things as being equally important as something that's actually producing most of the money. And they're not. this is the issue. Like prioritizing your activities is absolutely key, because our brains are not necessarily designed to determine and interpret value, especially if it's long-term value. And our brains are really almost, they're designed to interpret urgency, but not what's actually most important. So we have to use some conscious thought and actually then say, wait a minute, this is going to be the best thing for me to create the goal that I want. And so, and that's when and then you do them in a list of priorities. You know, here's the thing, you know, I remember reading when I first read, when I first read, gosh, what is the 4-hour work week? Okay, when I first read that by Tim Ferriss, I remember him saying that he was like, I don't read all my emails, and I was like, what do you mean? You know, and he was like, I check the most important ones first, and I handle those. He said, but anybody said, if any given life, there's going to be some things that kind of slip through, but you want the things that slip through, which would be the least important things, and the things that you actually dial in and focus and accomplish are the things that are most important. And that's what I tell people, because in order to interpret and figure out what that is, we have to look into your business and actually see, you know, what's working for you and what's not. And then once you actually have the capital, because then there's actually, you look at, okay, well, where's the best ROI on your money? And there's a number of different things. And if you want to talk about what it is for your business, you know, I'm sure you can actually figure that out, and we could talk about that. But at the same time, if you just want to talk about what's the best ROI in the world right now, and in the business world, or even just in terms of investment opportunities in this global landscape right now, there's a number of different things that we could look at. And if you look at for right now, if you look at the top performing sectors over the past few weeks, there are 5 that are doing extraordinarily well. Those are communications. Those are things that are actually, and I'll send you a list, because I was just looking at them this morning, and it makes sense that these are the things that people are using. You know, things, you know, Netflix has actually gone up, which makes sense. You know, Facebook has actually gone up, which makes sense. You know, those things that are actually connecting people. Zoom has done extremely well. And then the things that have done poorly, unfortunately, you know, there's been a lot of things. The energy sector right now is kind of been a mess. The you know, oil went, you know, negative 41 for the first time ever, which is sort of a, you know, interesting.
So are you a big, the way you're listening to this off, and I invest some, I did a video on my YouTube channel, stocks. You a big stocks guy too?
Yes. Well, I have been ever since. I mean, when I was at the hedge fund, we were long short domestic equities, and so and essentially that's, and for those that don't know, you know, long is when you make money when a stock goes up. Short is when you make money when a stock goes down. And so right now, you know, there are a lot of different plays, you know, across the planet. I mean, just being in Mexico right now, the dollar has gone up, you know, 10% to the peso, you know, over the past couple of weeks as well. And so here's the thing. There's opportunities wherever you look. And it's just about actually, you know, positioning yourself to take advantage of those. Because the thing is that, again, doing what rich people do, rich people have been doing this for a very long time. And it's the quickest way to actually duplicate, you know, their system is to follow what they do, learn it, put it in place, practice it, and then make it your own. Because here's the thing, because everybody's different. Everybody's going to have their own system that works for them. And so I've studied the principles of Tony Robbins, but I'm not going to be Tony Robbins. I'm going to be my version of that. And so, so that's it. Yeah, that's it. And we can talk about that. We can talk.
That's true. No, dude, this is awesome. Like, so no, because that's true. So the money tip there. So your best way you did investment, once you were in the hedge fund, you paid attention, right? And then some of the money you made in your business, you don't own real estate. You invest in stock market, basically, or
yes. Okay, so let me say this is what I have found is that there's. Well, actually, we lost a lot during the credit crisis, and that's actually that was when things really became.
Are you talking about 2008?
Yes.
Yeah. My dad did too. Yeah, yes. Everybody. Yeah.
And before that, you know, I thought it was a genius. That it was I couldn't lose. But then I realized that there's far more to it. And you have to look at much longer term plays. Like right now, what I'm looking at is essentially what is going to be the businesses of the futures for the next 3 years, next 5 years, next 10 years. And those are companies that are able to utilize. And whatever your feelings are with 5G, whether you are anti-5G.
I want to ask you about that. This is going on a little longer than that, but this is so good. What about 5G? What's your thing about 5G? Because you're in the health thing.
Yes.
You hear a lot of bad things about it. So I want to hear your take on it.
5G, unfortunately, Wi-Fi, electromagnetic frequencies are damaging to the cells. They actually open up something called your calcium voltage ion channels within your cells, and they actually let more calcium into the cell, which actually causes mitochondrial degradation and DNA damage of the cell. And that's actually what causes cancer. And this is of non-thermal radiation. This is of like regular radio waves. This is why if they put a big giant radio tower that just played FM or AM radio, you actually can't get near it. It's actually very harmful to the body. Now, a lot of people say, but it's able to travel long distances. Now, when you get to 5G, which is high frequency millimeter wavelengths, it creates something called beam forming, which are like essentially lasers of radio frequencies. And here's the problem, is that it's not just the regular. A lot of people say, well, when we put I think they put a mouse for like a half hour and exposed them to these radio frequencies, that there was not that much damage. But it's not the mouse, but it wasn't comparable to what we in society actually experience. Right now, today, people are in their homes and they're exposed to Wi-Fi 24/7, 365 days a year. But not just getting that. What happens is when the angles start to come, if a wave comes in this way and a wave comes in diagonally this way, it creates amplitudes which do tremendous damage on the cell. And so here's the thing, so there are certain things that you could do. I would increase your magnesium levels, like a magnesium supplement. I would increase your vitamin C supplementation and make sure that you're doing grounding and getting negative ions from the earth. Doing all these things to increase your cellular battery and your redox potential. Because these are the things that we have to do living in a modern day society to actually make ourselves immune from a lot of the damage that actually is happening. So that's my take, and I can speak on the health impacts for a very, very long time. You can look them up.
I know you can. I want to respect your time as well as that. Is it dangerous or no? It's dangerous then, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's fortunate. It's even more dangerous for kids, because their bodies and their brains, their skulls are thinner, and so when the waves actually penetrate their brain, it actually bounces around, and it causes more damage. And so I see, I was somewhere the other day and I saw a baby crib that was right next to a router, and I didn't even, and there wasn't a baby in it, but I was just, I felt like there's so many people in society who just have no idea how these things, because we can't see them, are actually affecting their health. Now,
no, and I'm totally with you. So this
is going to happen. Now, I just think people know what the symptoms are. The biggest symptom of hypersensitivity to electromagnetism is nervousness, is anxiety. And you say anxiety, that's the first one amongst many others. But just in terms of when you have it on just a very low level, people feel a little anxious. Okay, and that can cause a number of different things. But then so that's my view on it health wise. I can talk about it. It's dangerous. I can send you all the information. But let's talk about it in terms of the economy wise. Okay, economy wise, the Internet of Things is coming, whether you like it or not. And so the key is to be prepared for it, and to truthfully and actually invest in the sectors that are going to be able to maximize that functionality and maximize that ability to, send advertisements, depending on, I have right now, one of the companies I'm actually invested in is a company that is you're able to watch a movie and see an outfit of somebody, and you'll be able to click here and click that. I want that hat. I want that scarf that you got on, and I want those earrings, and I want that lipstick, and actually be able to click and be able to buy that instantly. Now that's going to be now in the Internet of Things, when 5G actually takes off, those types of technologies are going to be extraordinarily profitable. And the thing is that the biggest companies haven't even been created yet. So I'm always watching and I'm always aware, but also at the same time, in terms of health, you want to be in the population density is absolutely key going forward in terms of health. And so right now, luckily, there's not that many people around us, and so I have less signals around me. 5G hasn't come to this area of Mexico yet, and so I'm in a much safer place. But as time goes on, there's going to be, right now, Elon Musk, he's putting in, I think, 40,000 satellites in the sky right now to have. It's his idea of having essentially Wi-Fi everywhere across the planet. At a certain point, and we expect this to be around 2030, for essentially Wi-Fi to be everywhere and it to be embedded in 98% of all retail items that are actually sold. And that's just 10 years away, but it's going very, very fast. At that time, you have to do what's best to actually protect yourself, protect your health through supplementation, through exercise, and make sure that you're the healthiest version of you that you could possibly be.
Yeah. Because that's what you can control. And that's why I'm glad I interviewed you. And I'm going to go through the final 4 questions. The other one, too, and I did want to say this. So I have so much more for you, but it's we'll save it for another time when I'm even bigger. We'll bring you back on. And I'm blowing up pretty good. We got Dana White. We got Mark Cuban. I have Brian Cuban. I was actually just talking about suffering, getting over addictions and stuff like that, and getting past it. So we did Recovering the World on that and getting to health. And now we have the health guy. So when you were young, right, did you know you'd be doing all this and be into everything?
I had no idea. And the truth is that no. No.
Well, and the reason why I say that is because I used to teach. I have a lot of my students watch, right? And they came from very tough families. And my whole point is, if you can start focusing on yourself like you did, get true to yourself. Okay, who do I want to be around, right? Do that. Follow that. And then study what successful people do and do what they do.
That's right.
Your potential. I have so much potential. This is why I coach and I help people all the time. Because I love it. And dude, actually, I want to tell you, I'm highly invested in a software business right now. Eventually, you're saying the best one's the best on the future. I used to write a little bit of code. I'll have a software one day you might want to invest in. My goal is to get it publicly traded. So.
Okay. So right now, so it's a startup right now. It's
I'm an entrepreneur, man. You know.
Okay.
But I love it. I'm good at making money. I'm good at helping people make money, and I take all that money and I'm like Grant. I don't let it sit still. I'll either buy real estate, or I'll invest in one of my software businesses. And that's what I'm going to do until I get to 77 million, and then I'm going to open the biggest coffee shop music studio ever. We'll probably have to have Wi-Fi there, but I wanted to have a big health focus on it. So this is great that we're connecting now. Because when I open one in Mexico, you can be like, yo, Jeff, this is the healthiest thing to have on the menu. And we're going to sell a feeling of health, wealth, and freedom. No matter, even if it's 5G and robots, we're still going to be a better version of ourselves, you know?
I love it, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dude, awesome. All right. So, hey, I want to ask you, because you have a wonderful wife. She reached out to me, hey, you gotta interview this guy. Now I'm glad I did. At first, I was like, all right, Biohack, he's one of these guys. You're totally blew my whole world here. What's the best relationship advice? How did you guys meet, and how long what's the best relationship advice you guys together?
We have been together essentially, we actually met at Tony Robbins. And I was actually doing at the time, I had progressed through a few different levels, and I was doing security for Tony, and she was a
I didn't even know that.
Cool. And she was a plat, and it's kind of interesting.
So you met Tony Robbins before?
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
he's cool. Because Omar the Passionate Few, I don't know if you know what Omar is. You should try and get on his show.
Okay.
He's a big show. And his big guy who saved his life was Tony Robbins. He's finally interviewing Tony Robbins this year. So Omar's a big reason why I'm blowing up with my podcast.
Oh, wow. Yeah, please. I love an introduction. Yeah, I love to talk to him.
Yeah. So best relationship advice, though, between you and your wife.
The best relationship advice I would say, is to be open. For me, it's different, because for me, I've actually had to look beyond as a conscious-minded male. You know, there's a few, like, I don't know if you've read a book by David Data called The Way of the Superior Man. And what I do is again, just in the same way that I actually utilize in my coaching practice, I find the best people in the world on certain things, and I actually apply those principles and I apply them on a very succinct level, you know. And so in terms of relationships, I apply, you know, some of the teachings from David Data, which actually have allowed me to, when you look at male and female and look at the masculine and feminine, they say that the masculine is consciousness and the feminine is light. So together they create conscious light. But in order to actually, the way that the consciousness actually you actually have to see the bigger picture. You have to actually see, you know, where things are going. And light is just like nature. Nature is essentially, it's unstoppable. Nature will cut through, you know, through solid rock, and that's essentially one of the reasons why they call the feminine, you know, Mother Nature, because it actually, you know, that is the nature of the feminine. And so you actually have to be able to see where things are going, because at the time, you know, nature, you know, can have its storms and it's you know, different things can be going on, but you have to not just see what's actually happening in the present, but in the future as well, and see how, and be able to bring all that together. So that's, in terms of a masculine male, that's actually what I would actually say that has helped me. But you have to be able to hear, communication is key, because so many people have different feelings, different emotions that are going on within them that they're not acknowledging. and that they're not even aware of what their true feelings are on certain issues. And so a lot of people, they bundle things up and they don't talk about them. But for me, I'm a little bit different. I think that when certain things happen, certain things rise to the surface for a reason. And so I think that they rise to the surface so they can be healed, so they can be, addressed, and so they can be supported by each other. But I think that, there's a synergy that actually happens when two people are aligned, and they're separate. They're different people, they're different personalities, but they come together and they actually create something beautiful. And I think that it's the realization of the longer, bigger picture of what it is that we're trying to create, that actually creates the vision of where we're going, and actually allows us to guide the sail through the storms much more smoothly. So
wow, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So the next question is, these are the last four.
Sure.
What's something you're looking forward to next? And like, where's one of the places you spoke before? Because you spoke. And
Yeah.
So
what am I looking forward to next? That's a good question. I'm looking forward to a lot of things. I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I know that I'm looking forward to, truthfully, actually, one of the things I do want to say, it's going to be nice to actually continue to travel again once the quarantine is actually ended. But I'm also looking forward to the end of this thing. And on the other side of this, there's going to be some extraordinary opportunities. The fact that I'm looking forward to awakening people and that I'm speaking to, that are actually, because right now across the planet, people are waking up to things that, because they haven't had the chance to really look at themselves and reflect on actually where they are in life for a very long time. And some people for the first time in their lives. I'm looking forward to seeing where our society will be able to go, because a lot of people are concerned that there's going to be a lot of fear, and you do have a lot of that there, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity of helping people grow, of reaching a broader audience, of actually reaching thousands of individuals, and actually be able to help them amplify and improve their game and their level of performance in all areas of their life. That's what I'm looking forward to.
No, the world needs more of Dr. Jonathan Clark, because as everybody is in fear, we can coach them out of it to help them get into where they be, right?
Yes.
And in fact, like salesmen too, as a way. So one of my passions, Grant said I wouldn't do it. By the way, one thing I got from you is the fact that you met your wife at a Tony Robbins thing. Yeah. I always want to meet a 10X girl. Yeah. I was in Miami. There were so many, my weakness is Spanish girls. There were so many hot Spanish girls around there that I'm like, one day I'm going to marry a 10X girl. Right now I'm waiting for Elena to write her book. That's the one you saw the interview with.
Yes.
I'm writing her, and I told her I'm going to read that book, and then that. Right now I don't focus on girls. I don't focus on alcohol. I just focus on my business and helping people, man. And that's really it, man.
The perfect one for you is out there and waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just you don't rush it. As you start becoming successful, people start getting attracted to you. It's actually kind of cool, you know. So what's one change though you would make in the education system? Because I'm going to change the education system in some way. I'm going to have a vital part of it. Yeah. What's one change you think we could do?
Well, I think people are educated just enough to, the problem is with education, people are educated just enough to accept what they've been taught, and not educated enough to question what they've been taught. And I think that's the key, is that, we have to realize that, we were given brains for a reason, to not just accept things as they are, but to investigate, to think beyond, to actually think of what could be, not in terms of what's, how do I fit within what is. And there's a quote that I can't remember exactly what it is, and it talks about the reasonable man. And it says that the reasonable man is, God adapts to its world, and the unreasonable man wants the world to adapt to him. And then it says all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And what that actually means is that that we have something unique, and as long as we sit there and just go in march step with everyone else, then what it is, our gift within us will never be fully be able to be birthed to the world. We actually have to come up with that sense of authenticity, that uniqueness that makes you uniquely valuable to the world. And it is that thing that we must tap into, and there's that thing that is going to make the world abundant and much more incredible and magnificent going forward in the future. That's what I think that we need to do in the education system.
Dude, that was the best answer. I think I'm actually going to start coming up with you answering that, because that was great. And I will say, out of this whole pandemic, the one thing I found in me that I didn't know, and how I'm able to help people with coaching, that's the one thing that I'm never going to stop. Like, I'm always going to help it out. I'm always going to structure it, because I feel like I'm making a difference right now, and that's what matters. And it'll be a thing of my business. So that's awesome. So where can people find more of you now? Where can they find more of you?
Okay. Please reach out to me at innerpowerunleashed.com, or you can find me at Biofast Health Global on Facebook, or Inner Power Unleashed at Facebook, or you can just find me, Jonathan Clark, on Facebook as well. Truthfully, right now, the biggest platform I'm using is Facebook and LinkedIn, just because it's right now, there's 2 billion people across the planet. I think it's 2.7 right now, and that's going to continue to expand. And so that I'm there, I'm interacting with people, I'm engaged. Message me directly, and I'll respond directly to you, and I can help you or help your business.
Okay, so Jonathan Clark on LinkedIn, and when you say it's inner power, it's inner
power unleashed.
Innerpowerunleashed.com, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll put it in the show notes too. Hey, Jonathan Clark, thanks for your time. I know I was a little late getting to it, but we over-delivered. You over-delivered. I'm going to connect you with some few people to get you on some more stuff, okay? I'm a PR guy for my brother, and I'll be a PR guy for you because you have an important message that needs to get to everybody, all right?
Thank you, brother. And I'd be more than happy to be a continuing resource and a continuing segment on your show anytime, any week, any day that you choose, brother. I'm there.
You know what we're going to do? So I'm doing this right now. I have my funnel guy working on it. We're doing a thing called Changing Lives Coaching Session. We're going to do Instagram Live. I don't know Instagram, but we're going to do it called Changing Lives Instagram Time. I'm going to have certain guests speak on it. I would love to have you come on to my audience there.
I'd love to, brother. I'm there. Just say the word.
All right, it's done. Awesome. We'll set it up with your assistant or wonderful assistant, your wife.
Yes.
We'll make it happen. All right, man?
Thank you, brother.
You need to teach me that, too. All right, jeffjcarney.com. Inspire others always. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan Clark. Dude, I just stopped it. All right, I'm going to get this up tonight, I think. I'm going to send it to my editor. I might edit this one myself. I think you had so much stuff that's so valuable now. I love your energy. I have a lot of energy. And me and you are going to do big things going forward, man. Like, no matter what. Because, you do it. I know there's people that you can help that I can't help, etc.
And vice versa. That's exactly right. There are people that we are uniquely qualified to help. So,
awesome. So what I was doing is when I stop this, it's going to download and record, and then I'm going to have to send it to the cloud and edit it over to my editing computer. That's what I'll do. So awesome, dude.
Awesome,
great,
brother.
Dude. I'm so glad we met.
Yes, man.
Who's this guy? Man, we're going to do something again.
Yes, man. I'm glad that you chose me, man. I'm glad that we connected, man. And we will be working together many times
full
again.
Disclosure where I'm at. Yeah. I'm literally like I was to build my software business. I was selling windows for a home improvement guy. Yeah. That's my mentor, JC Tenati, great guy. And I was learning real estate. So I was learning everything about real estate and how to do it. I have a little 4-unit, right? So I'm literally like new to the dirt, right? Bought some stocks and when everything crashed. It's funny, when I went to fund my software right when this crashed, I took a bunch of money out before the whole crash.
Smart.
Yeah. But all the coaching, like Anthony Robbins coaching that I did, Grant Cardone, 7K, then I put it all on credit cards. So with inflation, what I'm trying to do is help as many people pay off my credit cards right now because it's bad debt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got me there. It's bad. Pay that down. Yeah. Keep my real estate investment, and then build my coaching business, and then get one of these softwares to help a lot of people as well. You know.
Awesome. Well, let me know, man, and I'll share with others, and we'll blow it up. So.
We'll blow it up. Man. Awesome. All right, I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll talk to you later, man.
Okay, brother. Yeah. Awesome. Talk soon, man. Take care.